everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Quite often what I'll do, especially on my LinkedIn, is run some polls around subjects that people would like some information on, and a few times now workplace stress and anxiety has come up top. So I thought it would be really useful to do a more detailed YouTube video. This is a subject that I can very much relate to. I'm quite open about the fact that throughout my career in sales and recruitment, I have suffered with stress, anxiety, and I still do to some extent with my business. I think it's just part of me, but I've learned ways to deal with it and coping mechanisms. And now I would say I understand it a lot more as well. In this video today, I'm going to be going through a little bit more information about maybe why we feel levels of stress and anxiety, where it's happening in our body, but also some tips, things that have worked for me. They may work for you as well, but if anyone else has got some tips that have worked for them in the past, please feel free to leave comments at the bottom of the video, because I'm always open to new ideas, and if you can share anything that can help others, it's definitely going to be useful. One of the things I wanted to highlight in this video is feeling stressed and feeling anxious is normal. The worst thing you can do when you're feeling like this is then worry about the fact that you're feeling this way and putting pressure on yourself to feel the opposite way, which is something that I've done in the past a lot as well. It's a vicious circle. You're just adding to that stress and anxiety. We're working in jobs that have targets, a lot of pressure, lots of ups and downs, rejection, highs and lows, and it's an emotional roller coaster. So stress and anxiety are a byproduct of these types of roles, but it's about learning how to cope with them. That is going to help you. Certain levels of stress in a healthy way can help build our confidence and resilience. If we go through something stressful and get through it and come out the other side and achieve something, that's going to raise our levels of confidence, and confident people are resilient, so that resilience is going to go up. It can be a motivator. It can also be something that pushes us. When it becomes unhealthy is when it is constant and we're too motivated by that feeling. When it becomes constant, and this is what happened to me, you then don't see it as stress, it's just normal life, that is when it can become very unhealthy, and it's ultimately going to affect your work. You're not going to be in a positive mindset and working in a positive way. The mistakes that I've made in the past is thinking that if I'm stressed and I'm feeling this way, it means I'm working hard, I'm doing well at my job, and I'm going to be more successful for it. And I was so wrong. The year I had, my best year when I was a recruitment consultant, I was probably at my lowest. I was extremely stressed, I was exhausted, and I just wasn't in a good place. What I've learned since then is that actually by looking after myself, reducing those levels of stress and anxiety, I was then able to be even more successful than I thought I could. What I'm trying to say is that stress in small doses, fine, but when it becomes consistent stress, it's not healthy, it's not good for us whatsoever. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our brain, because that is where we get a lot of those feelings of stress and anxiety from. I'm of course no expert in neuroscience, but I know a bit from my coaching experience. We've got at the front of our brain, so about here, something called the prefrontal cortex, and you want to think of this as basically like the CEO of our brain and of our minds. We use it for conscious thinking, and it actually uses a lot of energy, conscious thinking. So every time we put a thought into action, and every time thinking consciously about an idea, we're using energy. And that prefrontal cortex, it actually tires quite easily. So if our brain is being absolutely overloaded with tasks, ideas, pressure, things to do, that is where the stress and the exhaustion starts, and it's called cognitive overload. So a good way to think about it is, if you can imagine packing a suitcase to go on holiday, the suitcase can only fit so many clothes and shoes in. You're going to get to a point where you're trying to squeeze things in to shut the suitcase, but there is a point where you're not going to fit anything new in unless you take something else out. So cognitive overload is when there's just too much sometimes going into our brain for us really to cope with. Our prefrontal cortex actually doesn't deal so well with multitasking because of that, because there's just going to be too much going on for it. If you think that our brain uses over 25% of our body's energy, you can see why when we've got a lot of conscious thinking going on, that prefrontal cortex area can get tired very easily. I always know when I'm getting like it because my head feels tired. My body might feel okay, but in my head I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Perfect signs of it can be if you've ever been in a situation where somebody can ask you the simplest of questions and you just can't answer. It's not that you've been asked a hard question, but your brain has just got so much going on, it can't process the information and help you process an answer. When we're stressed, that then elevates our cortisol levels, which can then affect another part of our brain called the amygdala. And we've got one in each hemisphere of our brain. So one on the left, one on the right. This is where emotional responses to stress are triggered. So, you've heard people talk about the fight or flight type scenarios. This is the part of our brain where this is triggered. If the amygdala is getting a stress stimulus, it's then going to produce an emotional response to that threat or that feeling of threat. It's linked to our basic survival instincts. It's an unconscious response to those feelings that we get. Think of it as the guardhouse of our brain. It's there to protect us. So if we feel safe, it's calm, it calms us down. If it's under threat, then it's going to protect us. Now, what this can affect is things like our problem-solving skills, perception of things, our motivation, how we collaborate with others. So can you start to see how if we're under stress and we're anxious, key parts of what we need for our job basically can be affected? I mentioned there that it affects our perception. Now, one thing that I've learned that's really helped me deal with stress and anxiety over the years, and it took me a long time to actually learn this, is that we don't experience reality. We experience perception. Now, we could be perceiving an environment or a situation to be different to the reality or somebody else's reality. If you put a team of people into a room, you're all different. You've all got different behavioural instincts and personalities. You on the inside could be feeling extremely stressed and anxious about something that's happened in that room. Somebody else could have perceived it differently and be cool, calm and collected. Outside of the sciencey stuff, the reason why we sometimes feel stressed and anxious in sales or recruitment roles is because they are high pressured and they're roles where you've got targets to hit. A lot of the time when you're in these types of roles, you're very driven as a person, very focused, determined. You want to do well. Sometimes it can be internal pressures. Sometimes we're in environments where we might be put under pressure as well. It could be by a manager. So how can you cope with stress and anxiety? One of the things that I've got into very recently, I can't believe it's taken me so long to do it, is meditation. For years, people have been telling me to do it and I wasn't into it. I thought it was too airy-fairy. I didn't have time to meditate. I was too stressed to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. Very recently, I've started doing a lot of guided meditation and there's loads of apps you can get to help you. There's YouTube videos you can use as well, but it's been life-changing for me. And I truly believe that if you're somebody that does suffer with a lot of stress and anxiety, it can really, really help you tackle it. Don't be put off if the first few times you find it really hard to concentrate or focus and you don't really feel like you're benefiting from it, because it took me over a week to really, really gain something and feel fully immersed in the meditation. What meditation is great for is helping that cognitive overload. So giving your brain a break, helping it relax, helping it rejuvenate. It also helps you be more present. So maybe not reliving past experiences that are making you stressed or thinking too far ahead and putting that pressure on yourself to achieve future results. It helps you focus on positives and relax your mind, which if you're feeling a lot of stress and anxiety is very, very important to do. It seems like an obvious way to tackle stress and anxiety, but you've got to take breaks. I have been awful for this in the past. Especially when I was in recruitment, I sometimes would only take a break to grab a quick lunch, a drink, and a toilet break. Taking breaks, again, goes back to the cognitive overload. It helps your brain just relax, unwind, offload. Remember that suitcase analogy? It helps you unpack that suitcase and free up some space. Taking a break for you could be going for a walk, getting out of the house, putting a podcast on, putting your earphones in, and escaping. It could be going to the gym. It could be meeting up with a friend for a quick coffee. You've got an hour typically for lunch. If you've got flexi time, you can maybe extend it if you need to, but do something that's going to take you away from your desk, take you away from work, and relax. If you're feeling these feelings of stress and anxiety outside of working hours, do things again that are going to take your brain and your mind off work and help you relax. So again, it could be spending time with your family and friends. It could be exercising, reading one of your favorite books, listening to a really insightful podcast. It could be meditating, as I mentioned earlier. Really start trying to implement some self-care into your routine so your brain is really getting that break. Think of it as if, like we need sleep to relax and rejuvenate. It's giving your brain that time to sleep. Sleep is something that can be massively affected when we're stressed and anxious. It can be be a good indication actually of when something's not going right in our workday. I used to quite often, if I was feeling stressed from work, even if I was sleeping, my dreams were work related, and they were often about something I was fearing. So I wasn't getting a break. Even when I was sleeping, I was thinking about work, and I'd wake up and it would be on my mind straight away. So before bed, one thing that can help is sometimes having a bath, so starting to unwind, ready for bed. It could be that you drink, and this has worked for me in the past, a relaxing tea before bed. Chamomile is brilliant, or lavender tea is excellent as well. I know I've already talked about meditation, but you can get sleep meditations as well. Some of them are guided. It could be relaxing music. It's giving your mind something else to focus on, helping you unwind and creating a pleasurable experience before bed, so you can go into a deeper sleep, fully relax and wake up feeling a lot more positive and having a lot more energy as well. One of the things that I used to be almost afraid of doing when I was feeling stressed was asking for help. And it was probably one of my biggest mistakes. I would be spinning way too many plates. My brain was completely exhausted. My body was completely exhausted. And I would just want to show that I could carry on with my work and take on way too much. I was almost like I was trying to prove something. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't be afraid to ask for help. It is in no way a sign of weakness. By being open and saying, look, I've got too much work on at the moment. What can somebody help me with? Or what work can I pass to somebody else? It gives the chance then for you to have some help, have some support, and have a more manageable workload. That could be the one simple thing that solves your problems and makes you feel a lot better and less stressed. Asking for help is really important, and it's something that we don't do enough in these high pressured environments, but quite often people are more than happy to help out to ease your workload. I mentioned earlier that our prefrontal cortex doesn't deal well with multitasking. So try and just deal with one task at a time. When you're trying to juggle multiple things at once, you've got one window open on your computer, you're doing something, you're quickly answering the phone, then doing something else, you're piling on even more stress, and it can result in you just shutting down, feeling way too overwhelmed. So take a step back, write the things down that you need to do, focus on the priorities, get one thing done at a time. You'll realize that you're getting things done more efficiently, quicker, your quality of work will be strong, and you're not going to be making any mistakes. What can create stress sometimes is being motivated by something negative. Quite often, I speak to people where they are experiencing fear as a motivator. So they're afraid of not hitting their target, and that's motivating them to try and hit it. Or they're afraid of their boss putting them on a performance review, so they're motivated by that not happening. You're being motivated by something negative, and that is affecting how you think, how you feel, your perception of your environment, and it's not going to be a positive motivator overall. You're adding again to your stress and massively affecting your anxieties. Recognize when that is happening and turn that negative motivator into a positive motivator. If you recognize that you're being motivated by the fear of not hitting your target, flip that into being motivated by, for example, placing one person this quarter into a job. Now, the result of placing that person is going to help you hit your target. It's focusing on the process because that will gain you the result, which in turn will help you hit your target. There's a part in our brain called the reticular activating system, and it's in our brain stem. It's basically where we focus our attention. So if we focus on problems, it will just keep bringing us problems. Whereas if we focus our attention on positive things over problems, we're going to be drawing positive things into our life. If you change your perceptions, you're changing what you're experiencing every day. One of the things that I'm a big advocate for is positive affirmations, which in the past have really, really helped me. It's going to help that reticular activating system to focus its attention in more positive ways. It's totally up to you how you do these. You might wake up in the morning and do it first thing, which is great. It really sets you up for the day. You might want to, when you get to your desk, write out 3 positive affirmations. And the way you write them is as if they're already true. So I am a fantastic recruitment consultant. I am great at my job. I feel happy and content in my role. So they're all present affirmations that you believe to be already happening. When you are stressed and anxious, it can be easy to forget the things that you're doing that are great. Those are the things that can give you a boost and help you relax and realize, actually, do you know what? I'm doing a really, really good job. One thing that I do, which really, really helps me, is I've got a board up in my office. I will write down the things that I'm really proud of that I've done each week, and I'll do it day by day. So by the time I get to Friday, I can look up at that board, view what I've done that week, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel proud of what I've done, and it can really help alleviate stress by seeing visually what you've achieved in a day and in a week. One of the things that used to affect me was I used to make a lot of assumptions about what people thought about my work and what I was doing without actually going and finding that out. Assumptions are just made up thoughts. We don't know they're true. If I'd have just gone to one of my managers and asked, how do you think I'm doing at the moment? Are you happy with my work? And they would have said yes, I would have been a lot more content and more comfortable with what I was doing. But instead, I just believed my assumptions and was afraid to go and ask for feedback. We're not always going to get told positive feedback without asking for it. I've covered this off in my work from home video, I know, but make sure that you're creating a nice working environment as well. Make sure that it's warm, that you're comfortable, that you haven't got papers all over your desk, making it more organised, putting a nice photo of a family member, for example, on your desk. That might be something that makes you think a bit more positive and feel more comfortable in your environment. It's really, really important to deal with these feelings because they can build up and really affect your body. It's not healthy. I used to go through a vicious cycle of piling on the stress, then my body would just have enough, I would get ill, and then the vicious cycle would start again. Yes, I was great at my job and I was getting the results, but inside I didn't feel good and I didn't feel happy. I don't want anyone else to feel that way. What we can do is we can choose how we respond to things, we can choose how we feel about things, and we can put measurable actions or coping mechanisms into place to deal with these emotions in a better way. Eventually, we can be so on top of the initial triggers that we don't get the same extreme feelings as a result of it. Feel free to watch my other videos around working from home and managing remotely. As I said at the start of the video, if there's anything at all that you've done that has been a great way for dealing with stress and anxiety, please put it in the comments box, because I'm always open to learning new techniques and anybody else watching this video would benefit from them as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next month.